Every day I can't believe I gotta go. This the only life I know. I believe it in my mind, so I know it's time to show. This the only vibe to go. I do believe it, do you believe it? I said, are you a believer till the end? When your funds are low, can you believe in it again? No longer ever questioning yourself if you believe it though. You never questioning yourself if you believe it though. Now there's one thing about the future, you should know that you deserve it all.
People going crazy in DC is very political over there.
Being in the space I learned to see, I only ever make what every day I can't believe I gotta go. This the only life I know. I believe it in my mind, so I know it's time to show. This the only vibe to go. I do believe it, do you believe it? I gotta go. This the only life I know. I believe it in my mind, so I know it's time to show. This the only vibe to go. I do believe it, do you believe it? Made up in my mind, it's believable. Saw it at the time, it's achievable. Now I got the drive, get the key to go. I got the key to go, if I believe it though. Yeah, made up in my mind, it's believable. Saw it at the time, it's achievable. Now I got the drive, get the key to go. Got the key to go, if I believe it though. Yeah. Now I got the drive, now I got the drive. I believe inside, I believe inside. I believe inside, I believe inside. I wanna see your hands up in the sky. Family by my side, if you don't believe inside. I say, now I got the drive, now I got the drive.
This moment,
I believe inside, I believe inside.
one life to grow.
I believe inside, I believe inside. With my family by my side, I believe inside. I say, now I got the drive, now I got the drive. I believe inside, I believe inside. Family by my side, I believe inside. With my family by my side, I will be alright.
Since the creation of the internet, every industry has been turned upside down. Amazon changed retail. Uber changed transportation. YouTube changed video forever. With the invention of crypto, money is next. At the speed technology is growing, the future of money and securities are digital. 9 out of 10 millennials do not trust banks. The value of money relies on trust. Government debt is higher than it's ever been before. Central banks continue to print money. Fortunately, the world has a new solution. Experts predict in 7 years, 10% of the world's economy will be in crypto-based assets. Today, 1 billion people have access to the financial industry. Crypto is about empowering the other 6 billion people by banking the unbanked. Do not underestimate this. Do you wish you invested in Google, Amazon, or Netflix before anyone ever knew about them? $1,000 invested in Netflix turned to over $500,000. At Token Metrics, we help you find the next Netflix. Token Metrics users think differently about investing. They are early adopters looking for financial freedom. They are people who see a better world. A world without international borders. We believe in a world where everyone has access to the next financial revolution. At Token Metrics, we are creating a bridge that gets you to that revolution. We will help you make sound investments in this new world. The world's best investors do not rely on their intuition. They embrace technology and AI to invest. Token Metrics uses AI to find invisible patterns in data to help you invest and trade in crypto. In the past, we have used our data-driven system to achieve financial freedom. Now, we are giving you the keys. We created Token Metrics to be the only platform you'll ever need to make money in crypto. We give you AI and access to crypto experts at the best price. The moon is not the limit. To the moon and beyond.
Disclaimer. Token Metrics Media LLC does not provide individually tailored investment advice and does not take a subscriber's or anyone's personal circumstance into consideration when discussing investments, nor is it registered as an investment advisor or broker-dealer in any jurisdiction. Information contained herein is not an offer or solicitation to buy, hold, or sell any security. The Token Metrics team has advised and invested in many blockchain companies. A complete list of their advisory roles and current holdings can be viewed here at tokenmetrics.com/disclosures.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to the 100X show. This is going out live to YouTube, Twitter, Periscope, also into the podcast. We have a very special guest with us today. We have Skycoin Synth, all the way from I'm not sure if I should disclose the location, but hey, welcome to the show, Sky. How are you?
Great. How are you doing?
Great. It's a pleasure. All right, so we have a very, very interesting project. So actually, this project is on our site on tokenmetrics.com, so I highly encourage you guys to go check out our in-depth review on this. So Sky, kind of tell us at a high level, who is Skycoin Synth?
So Skycoin is a really old project. It's about almost 10 years old now. It was launched the same week as Litecoin. And it's changed what we're doing over the years, but right now one of our flagship projects is we're building this new networking technology, basically a new internet. So we created we had a mesh networking protocol, and basically people are able to earn money from owning networking equipment and setting up like local neighborhood community broadband projects and rural broadband projects, and we built other things on top of that. Like we have a VPN coming out next month, and things that are. It's like so anyway, we did a lot of things like a new programming language, a hardware wallet, antenna communication equipment, hardware devices, and some of it is like in blockchain, and then eventually we went into more like consumer tech. And then we ended up getting dragged into sort of doing more stuff for like corporations, like VLAN technology and things. So within the Skycoin project, there's a lot of stuff. It's pretty crazy.
Okay, so in a way, you're building a new modern internet through blockchain and crypto, right?
Yeah. So one of the big issues with the current internet is there's of course the speed issue, which is if I want a gigabit per second internet in my house, what do? Do I beg to Google? Do I beg the Comcast? Like, the reality is you can't get these big companies to get off their ass to go do anything for you. They just don't care, right? So this is a way for communities to take back control of the internet hardware itself. So if you want 1 gigabit internet or you want whatever speed you want, you just install more equipment. And you go and you do it yourself. You don't have to wait for Google Fiber. You don't have to wait for Comcast. And then on top of that, there's certain things like we're going through this phase of internet balkanization. So when the internet was created, we said it was the global internet, the internet for the earth, right? But we don't have that anymore. We're going to have the Russian internet, the Chinese internet, the Brazilian internet, the European internet, the American internet. So we started building an overlay network and a new namespace so that when these governments start blocking everything, which is it's basically been going on a little bit for the last 8 years, but now it's getting really crazy where none of the Google apps work in China, none of the Chinese apps work outside China. So you're running a company and you're trying to to do something across 4 countries, and every single one of your offices has to use a different set of apps, it's crazy. So we built this thing called Skywire, and basically a new internet layer that addresses balkanization. And another thing that's happening is in the United States, they repealed net neutrality, and they said that the ISP can block whatever they want. And so pretend you're trying to access a website, and your internet service provider says, oh, they should pay us money, or we're going to shut them off, or we're going to slow down their traffic. The internet service provider now has the right to completely censor any website or any traffic it wants, even engaging in shakedown, like they'll unplug the Ethernet cable to Netflix one day, and then go to Netflix and say, oh, if you want to access our customers, you have to pay us. So, like mafia style shakedowns that have been going on. So the way that the current internet works is every time your packet goes through any country, they can see where the packet was from, where it's going to. So we developed a new networking protocol that's basically like Tor, but it's faster than the current internet. Instead of being very slow, it's actually faster than the current internet protocol. And in this protocol, the people handling the packet don't know the source and don't know the destination of the packet, and they don't know the content, so they can't block it. So what's happening, for instance, is a Japanese court says we want this website blocked, and then the ISP can start blocking all the traffic to or from that IP address that goes to Japan. So if you're in France and your packet went through Japan, oh, that website's blocked for you. It's just like the way that the internet architecture currently works is just it's been falling apart basically for 10 or 20 years now. So we started working on very early how do you deal with the next generation internet that we're going to need for for IoT and robotics and factories and this sort of like transnational corporations that are operating multiple offices. And basically there's a product that's very popular from Cisco called MPLS, and we started building the next generation MPLS system. So we have so there's some stuff there for like consumer, like VPN. There's some stuff there for like community projects, like doing rural broadband projects, and then we have some stuff for more corporate virtual LAN, corporate infrastructure and things like that, which is really interesting area.
So it seems like you really have a very large scale ecosystem you want to build out, and there's so many ways to go. So okay, so if anybody has any questions for Skycoin Synth, please go to our mentimeter.com. So let me pull that up here on the screen. So go to menti.com. That's MENTI.com. Use the code 3721113. That's 3721113 to submit your questions. So any questions you have, we'll also be taking questions as well via comments if we can. All right. So
what is the code? I'm on this website. 37 what?
So 3721113. That's 3721113 at menti.com, MENTI.com, and we'll be taking questions there.
372113.
3721113. 3721113.
3 3s.
Right, you got it?
Oh yeah. It doesn't show me the questions. Okay, whatever.
Yeah, so if anybody has any questions for Skycoin Synth, I'll just post the questions there. Okay, let me just check in with the audience. So as mentioned, this is going out live. Welcome everybody. Shout out to our crypto family. This is the first time we have a Friday night stream, which is great. So first on the stream was why Das of Annie. I totally butchered that. What's good? On YouTube, Lou Hardy on Facebook. What's up? Soy Frey, Mon Ami, welcome. Kingsley Matthew, what's up? Strike Attack, Medi, what's up? Hubert, what's up? Crypto Mike, is this a premiere? This is live. This is a live premiere with the 100x and Skycoin on the 100x show. All right, Andrew Thompson, what's up? Thank you for joining. Be sure to subscribe and smash the like buttons if you like to stream. That would help us a lot. I see here we have Benji saying Skycoin for the win. Okay, we have some Skycoin holders here. That's what's up. Okay, All right. So
Okay, I got the YouTube.
you got the YouTube?
Yeah, yeah. So look. Oh yeah. So it says Skycoin is $50 2 years ago. Yeah, yeah. So this project was really old. It was just a bunch of engineers, and it's evolved a lot over the years. And we went through the 2018 crypto bubble. Skycoin was listed on Binance 3 months before the peak of the bubble, and that was really, 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 really crazy. I don't know how I survived, and I don't know if I'd do it again. If you asked me if I would,
Yeah.
if I had a choice. But Skycoin went from the ICO price was 1 penny, and then during the run up, it went to $50. So we almost hit
Wow.
$1 billion. Then the
Insane.
market crashed, and everything committed suicide, and everything went down 98%, and it was just.
All right.
So
All right.
yeah,
So time out. Let's go back to when Skycoin was a penny. So
yeah.
you mentioned there was an ICO token sale, a mine. What happened with like the first distribution of cryptocurrencies or tokens?
It was just we had some the word ICO didn't exist back then. They didn't have all like STOs, ICOs. They didn't have all these basically that was before the word ICO even existed. So I was calling it a private sale, and so we just had people that bought the token and invested in it, and then went to 10 cents, and then went to $1, and then we were listed on Binance 2 to 3 months before the peak, before everything fell off a cliff. And then we just went to through a 2-year winter. I think the last 2 years were altcoin winter, and I think it's sort of coming back.
Yeah.
Right now, it looks like Bitcoin's going up. Looks like it might be close to 20K pretty soon, and a lot of people are looking at altcoins. So it was really funny because when in the winter we said we're in the bubble, we said we're gonna do this and this and this and this, and we didn't have anything, right? Because we were just developing. We were starting these new projects, and the price is up here, $50 a coin. And then afterwards, like today, we finished our programming language. We finished our hardware. We're launching our VPN next month. We finished all the project goals, basically. Got all the things working that we said we were going to get working. And too, when we were doing our test net, we had more nodes online than Ethereum. So this Ethereum had like 2,000, 6,000 nodes. We had over 10,000 active nodes running our networking platform. So we were doing pretty well, but in the way that the market works, everything's going up or everything's going down. So when you're in a down market, it's like the tide going out, and the tide comes in. So I think for this marketing thing, I want to go and push Skycoin out there, and I want to start building out these community mesh networks and starting getting local community projects going in different cities and different countries, and start sort of the growth phase instead of this product building phase or just marketing phase, raising money, then you build the product, then you release the product, and then it's more about building growth or adoption or getting users onto this network, or building out services for customers and things like that.
Wow. Okay. Interesting for sure. Okay. So let's kind of take a step back and let's talk about how you got involved in crypto, Bitcoin, before even Skycoin. What's kind of your crypto discovery moment?
I was involved with Bitcoin or like crypto even before Bitcoin, like Hashcash and Chomcash and eGold. I was in those groups basically, and I got pulled into Bitcoin because everyone's like, "Hey, you hear about Bitcoin? You hear about Bitcoin? You hear about Bitcoin?" And I ended up, it didn't compile, and I was a software developer, so I ended up getting pulled in, like doing some bug fixes, and then I got pulled in a few years later by this basically like a New York dark pool that was trying to offer Bitcoin to their customers, because they were getting all these calls and like, we want to buy Bitcoin, we want to buy Bitcoin, we want to buy Bitcoin, and these asset managers didn't know what Bitcoin was. They didn't know how to hold Bitcoin. They didn't have a custodial standard. There's like, oh, where's our Bitcoin broker? And like, oh, there's no broker. Like, you have to hold it yourself. And like, oh, what if it gets stolen? can we get insurance? The insurance company says, no, you can't, so it's just so at the beginning you had these dark pools for family offices that were trying to get into Bitcoin, and they didn't know what it was. So I got pulled in, and they wanted me to, like, what is Bitcoin? Do a code audit. Does it do what they say it is? Is it a Ponzi scheme? And I had said, no, it's not a Ponzi scheme, because they thought it was paying interest to existing investors, and that it was giving like massive interest or something. And I'm like, no, it's just an asset. They're not paying interest. There's no corporate. And like, they're like, who's the who's the CEO of Bitcoin? What's the company? Where are they incorporated? Like,
Yeah.
so they're trying to like figure this thing out. And so and so that I ended up just getting sucked in, just sucked into crypto, and I haven't been able to escape. since.
So what time frame was this? This was like 2007, 6 before even. I mean, Bitcoin was 2008, but Hashcash and all that. What time frame was that?
Oh, Chomcat.
Change.
So before Bitcoin, there was a data structure called the UXTO, and that was how the accounting was done in Bitcoin. And before they were before they had this idea of publishing all the transactions, no one knew. Everyone was trying to build these digital currencies, but they didn't know how. So I was sort of around when people were discussing the different ways of publishing the ledger like publicly, and how did you achieve a consensus and things like that. And I really didn't like proof of work. I was sort of an opponent of that, and it really was a hack, but I guess it worked enough to get Bitcoin going and keep it going, right? And it's still here. But when that was starting out, I thought it wasn't going to work, and and everyone was saying it was an experiment. Let's do it. Let's see what happens. So I was there from the beginning all the way till now, through all the market cycles, which is pretty crazy. I think the first 3 times, like the 3 crypto bubbles that you go through, you have like a heart attack, because you like make $1 million and you lose $1 million, and it's like, everything's just going up and down, create like 5,000x up, and then 98%, 98 down, but it's like up 5,000 and then down 100, but you're like, oh, I'm still up 50. Like you don't even, by the 3rd or 4th cycle, you don't even care. So I went through all, like, where the people couldn't sleep because they're checking the Bitcoin price every 30 seconds, and they're waking up in the middle of the night, like every 30 seconds checking the Bitcoin price. So they haven't slept in 10 days.
Yeah.
I went through
Crazy times. Yeah, I mean, because
I think we're getting
that
back
was me
into
back in 2017. 2017, I recall on Blockfolio, I would go with my phone everywhere, just refreshing the prices. And it basically became like a hit, right? Every time, like whether it was dopamine or whatever, right? Every time I would just refresh, I felt this rush. Yeah. All right.
And
Cool.
I think now, because of the central banks, I think that the 0% interest and talking about going negative, and they're printing up so many trillions of dollars because of this virus and the bailouts. I think that we're going to see Bitcoin at 20,000, 60,000. I think next year, or maybe not next year, but we could see a peak like 150,000, just because of the amount of money that's being printed up. So I don't really even look at the price anymore. I just know it's going up. I don't know when. I don't know. Like, this could be next month or next year, but they can't print up that amount of money without most of that going into gold and Bitcoin and the financial markets.
Okay, so actually, let's dive deeper into that, right? So you're saying you think Bitcoin can go to what again? Kind of delve deeper into your reasoning behind why Bitcoin can grow.
I think 20,000, and I think it'll eventually hit 60,000, and maybe hit a peak of 150,000, and then it'll fall maybe between 60 and 120,000. But I think that the next bubble we're looking at, I think it's going to hit 20,000 before, like 17, 18, 19, 20, somewhere in that range. And that's when we're going to see a massive inrush of people into
what time frame do you have crypto for that?
It looks like it's happening now, but I can never tell if it's going to be September or January or March. But what I'm seeing is, I think that the governments are, there's a lot of crap going on. Like, I think they're lying about some of the recovery. Like, they're saying housing prices are going up. And how do you have housing prices going up if half the people are defaulting on their mortgage, and you have 140 million people unemployed or not working, and everyone is trying to sell their house because they need cash to, to survive, and they're, in Australia, locked in their house, right? They can't go outside, and massive defaults. And they're saying that, oh, the real estate price is going up, and it's like in the media, and they just don't want people to panic and everyone to rush on the market and try to sell their house immediately, because they think that the market's that this depression is gonna last 5 or 10 years, right? So I think that what's happening, so right now the media is trying to say everything's okay, it's just gonna bounce, don't worry, but we've only started the crisis. The real crisis comes when the debt starts defaulting, and that will cause a depression in the economy, and we might have a banking crisis where we have another bail-in like 2008. So this is going to be really horrible. But when that happened in 2008, that's one of the triggers that sent Bitcoin from, we went from $1 to $1,000. A lot of it was the response to what happened in Cyprus when the government came in and they just took everyone's money out of their bank accounts as ours, right?
Yeah.
So I think that there's a lot of political and economic events that are going to occur. Like, the government is going to print up a huge amount of money for stimulus to try to keep it going and sort of soften the depression. And that's going to be, and most of that money is going to be going into the financial markets, the stocks and bonds and crypto. And I think that corporate debt and equities are both going to suffer a crisis at the same time. So and then people are going to start looking at alternative assets like altcoins and things like that, because some of these altcoins you can get 100% return, or 10%. These investors are looking for 10% of return, but they can get 100% or 100x return in some of these assets in crypto. So they're putting a little bit of money in there, and a lot of but basically this crisis is going to push a lot of money out of the housing markets, out of bonds, out of equities, and then where's it going to go? Because if you remember, it's going to go into crypto, it's going to go into altcoins, and we're going to see probably the biggest financial bubble in human history. I think that's going to trigger. I think that, I wouldn't be surprised if the altcoin market cap, Bitcoin market cap, if we saw trillions, like 1 trillion, 2 trillion, 3 trillion at the minimal.
Yeah.
Especially when people are rushing out of these other assets.
I mean, so as we say here,
shut up and take my money. Shut up and take my money.
Bitcoin at $1 trillion?
Shut up and take my money.
Not financial advice.
That's only 5x. It's not really.
Yeah. All right, cool. So let's check in here with the audience and just kind of see how we're doing. So once again, if you have any questions, please go to menti.com. That's MENTI.com. And the code is 3721113. That's 3721113. Okay. All right. So we have some questions here from the audience. Let's hop into that. Okay. So first question. When are we going to start using packages for installation and updates of Skycoin, Skywire, etc.? From Moses. Okay, so Moses has
Moses is doing the packages. Why is he asking that? It's the package manager. So basically, we launched our testnet last year, and now we're going in to a mainnet and building a consumer product. So before you had to know Linux and do all this stuff to basically configure. It was a lot of work. You had to be a techie, and so now we're building a consumer product where you just plug it in, you hit one button, it auto updates, it just works. You don't care how it works. And so we're just getting the project to that stage where we can push it out to 100,000 people or 1 million people. And to be honest, it is a lot of work in terms of bug fixes and auto updaters and supporting 14 different operating systems. It actually, I think it took a year in terms of 85 fix this, and you fix one thing every 2 days, right? And there's 85 things, so it took a year. But now it's done. So I think it's pretty much ready. I think that we're aiming we're gonna do a major release, and then in a week or so, that with all the bug fixes and network updates, then most of everything after that just usability, just auto updating and things like that.
All right, cool. Okay, so actually, one question I did have for you. Let me just see if I can pull up your site here, because I think it would be helpful to have it open as we're going through this. Okay, all right. So assume like we have people who have not been exposed to Skycoin before, right? So imagine basically people who are total noobs, right? And this is their first time getting exposed to Skycoin. So kind of what is the value prop of Skycoin, right? Because I come here on the site, I see what is Skycoin, right? We come here, we see, what's the first one, right? Skycoin is basically a new blockchain ecosystem built from the ground up, right? So ecosystem sounds nice. One of the cool things I did see, you have hardware devices, right? So people buy these hardware devices, hook it up to Wi-Fi, and they're now kind of in this new ecosystem. How does that work?
So we have a Skype Miner, which is, it's basically 8 computers, and each computer can run a separate blockchain application, and you plug it in and you get mining rewards. And most people don't really need this, but if you're like a company and you have 400 employees and you need to VPN your traffic between your offices, or you need, if you needed like 1 gigabit per second VPN, we have like 8 computers in this thing, so we can actually VPN the whole office for 100 people at 1 gigabit per second. So we built a lot of things like so that's one application for that, for like companies. Another application is each of these nodes can run a separate blockchain application. So if you want to, we have a platform called Fiber, and you can launch your own blockchain. So and this is really, really interesting. You saw all this censorship on Twitter and Facebook and Google, and these companies are just out of control, like YouTube, like purging all the crypto channels, and it's just really out of control. So a lot of people are upset about that, and they have to live in terror. Like you can't say this, you can't say that, and the rules are like, constantly changing. So a lot of people aren't really, we were given this internet and they said it's for free speech, right? And you should be able to say what you want and give the media back to the people. So you have a blog, you say what you want. It's like having your own newspaper, right? But now they say, no, you can't say that, or no, that's fake news. New York Times said this, and you disagree with them, so you're a Russian bot. We're gonna have to ban you because you're working for Putin. What? Yeah. So so the internet was sold to us as being decentralized, but it's not. Basically, all of our data now is controlled by Facebook, Google, and Twitter. And what we did was we built this platform called Fiber, where basically we're able to give control of the user's data back to the people. So instead of hosting your tweets on Twitter or hosting your videos on YouTube, we actually give you your own blockchain. So you have not only one blockchain, but you have a blockchain for your tweets, a blockchain for your blog, a blockchain for your videos, and any person that subscribes to you can download a whole copy of the data. So it's replicated peer-to-peer globally without web servers. So there's no central, and you own that blockchain. So
quick question, does that mean everybody has to have a miner to talk to each other? Kind of like as nodes?
Well, most people aren't going to set this up. They're not going to run Linux. But we have over 10,000 nodes on the network, so there's already there's a surplus, right? And as more people come on, we get more nodes, and we've always had more nodes and bandwidth and storage than we've had people.
So 10,000 nodes, like in a VPS or like as hardware?
As hardware, yeah, physical nodes. They're all physical. It's not VPS. It's not virtual.
Wow, so
it's not on
10,000 of this.
These are all physical.
Wow, this is that's insane. Okay, so quick question then. Apologies. So what's the main difference between running this and just like a Raspberry Pi besides power?
It is a Raspberry Pi. It is a Raspberry Pi. Well, it's a 64-bit, like 860. This one's an upgraded version with a more powerful like 8 cores and more RAM, but it's 64-bit. But you can run it on a Raspberry Pi. So you just run a bunch of Raspberry Pis, plug them in, hook them to the network, and you can start launching like your application on it, and that could be your YouTube channel, storing your YouTube channel, your Twitter, and so on. And so yeah, you could literally just take a Raspberry Pi, plug it in, and then run this software on it, and that would be able to at least, you're not going to be hosting a video thing for 100,000 people off that, but it's enough to seed the network like BitTorrent, and then other people, if you have a lot of subscribers, they're going to have copies of it because they're getting coin rewards for replicating the videos. So if people are getting paid actually to distribute this content, to store it, and to make it available to users. So you might need to have one copy yourself just to make sure it doesn't go away, and make sure your one or two of your friends subscribe to it in case like your node burns down or something. But it's replicated peer-to-peer over the whole internet. And this is really interesting because once one copy of that data is inside of a country, it will go locally over the internal network in the country. It doesn't have, like right now, if I download a video, it'll go from all the way around the earth to California and then back, and anyone in between can block it. In this system, every copy of the data is the same. So if someone in Japan downloads it, and you're in Japan, you'll just download it from the guy in Japan next door. So the data doesn't have to go all the way around the world and back. And so some things like for China or Iran or something like, or things where the government might shut off the whole internet for the country, right? That doesn't work anymore for this type of data. You can't shut down an individual channel anymore. So this technology is really interesting and revolutionary. But in order to, so from a technology perspective, as a software developer, an engineer, a mathematician, I would say that blockchain is just a database. So a lot of people have been using blockchain to create tokens, and we were the first one to see blockchain as a database. So Ethereum said blockchain is going to be this global computer, but we said that's not going to work because why would you have 200 million applications on one database? It's just going to be slow. It's going to be bloated, right? So we gave people the ability to have an individual, independent database, independent blockchain for each application and even for each user. So now I have 100 million blockchains in parallel, and they can do
So kind of like to shard a blockchain, sharding in a way?
Not even sharding, completely independent.
Okay.
So each one has each block. So in a shard, you still have to wait for the main blockchain to update. In this one, I can have 300 transactions a second. So think about your tweeting, right? You're updating your blog. Are you updating your blog more than 300 times a second?
No.
No, you're not. So this gives you a full pipeline where every application is getting 300 transactions a second. And unless you're like Reddit or 4chan and you have 40 million users ship posting 10,000 things a second, if it's just your Twitter or your YouTube or your comments for your thing, and you have one blockchain whose whole storage and transaction capacity is dedicated to that one application, it's basically unlimited, right? And I don't think that I didn't want gas. One of the things I wanted to get away with is gas, because in Ethereum, you ended up paying $2 every transaction, or 20 cents, or whatever it is now, and you paid for the transactions, but the storage was free. And in EOS, they charge you for the storage, and they give you free transactions. But they both ended up costing the same. And then anyone who really had an application with a lot of users had to fork either EOS or Ethereum to make their own blockchain anyways, because they ended up getting, imagine if you had to pay $2 every time you clicked the link on Twitter or Facebook. Like, who would use it?
Yeah.
So I think I wanted to move away from this gas model of trying to nickel and dime and telling people you own your hardware, you own your data, you own your channel, you do what you want with it, and if other people host it, we'll give them this incentive. They'll be able to make money making sure that the content is distributed. So this is part of this vision of a new internet. It's not just this networking protocol, and it's not just the hardware, and it's not just our programming language, and it's not just these decentralized social media apps that we're building on it. That's really what the Skycoin ecosystem is. It's each of these is only a component of a larger system that it took a really long time to build. And this year, I think, is the first year that all the components, the networking stack, the programming language, the blockchain platform, the hardware, that the whole ecosystem we're really, I think, what I would consider to be what comes after EOS or what comes after Ethereum. But you have to, when we started building this was almost, it was almost 10 years ago when Bitcoin launched. We were already working on the transaction problems and signature mutability and the duplicate, this duplicate Coinbase outputs and different vulnerabilities in the Bitcoin, the way the networking worked, that it would allow a government to sort of block all the Bitcoin nodes or take them off the internet or hijack the network. And we saw a lot of crazy things. So all this stuff we did was basically a response to Bitcoin. And then EOS, Ethereum, they did what they could with the technology they had at the time. But I don't think that type of platform and that model is going to scale to, for instance, having 6 billion people on it. I think that we're going to need 12 billion blockchains. And if we have 12 billion blockchains on Earth, right, we're not going to be able to do proof of work. We need to do consensus algorithms. So we also invented a new consensus algorithm called Obelisk. And I don't want to get into that, but basically proof of work works for Bitcoin because it's the largest coin. But a lot of smaller coins got hit by attacks because you can spend $100,000 to rent hardware by the hour to attack the network. And a lot of networks were attacked. So proof of work didn't really work for the smaller coins. And what we're really talking about is when you start your company, you have a company, right? And you incorporate your company, you're going to put the shares of that company on blockchain from day one. And those shares are going to be on an exchange and have an order book. And people are going to be able to buy and sell them as assets on day one. So what we're talking about is small businesses, local businesses and communities being able to create corporations and do IPOs and stuff on blockchain and the share in the company on blockchain. Because really what a lawyer does is they have a ledger, right? And they keep track of who owns what. Delaware a few years ago said you can put your stock on blockchain, but no one did it. They legalized it. But 5 or 10 years from now, every new corporation, the shares of that company are going to be registered on blockchain. And imagine you have your little company. Are you going to go to Binance or I don't want to pick on Binance. I like Binance. I don't want to pick on them. But are you going to go to OKX and pay like, $2 million to get your thing listed or whatever? And, Binance is a really good exchange, but they're focused on the big coins, Bitcoin, Ethereum, EOS, and whatever. They want $1 million a day volumes, $10 million a day volumes, $100 million a day volumes. If you're a mom and pop grocery store in Mexico, they're not going to list these tokens, right? So we need a new financial model, basically a centralized exchange model where every crypto asset has a order book from day one, and they don't have to go to these exchanges. The exchanges will still have a role, but we're going to be moving to a new decentralized model where you incorporate an asset and within 1 minute it's already traded. There's already an order book. It can be bought. It can be sold.
Kind of like what's happening with automated market makers and DEXs. Uniswap, in a way.
So this idea, you don't have to ask anyone to create your token or your asset, and then you don't have to ask anyone to get on an exchange and have an order book. And this is you don't have to ask, so this is the next generation, and this is sort of what we're building. Is Skycoin is building piping and tubing and infrastructure for this new vision of what we saw the internet and the financial services and IoT and industry. Where we saw the world going in 10 or 20 years. Like if I'm a company and I have an office in Brazil and I have an office in China and Japan and the US and Europe, and every country passed a law saying all the data has to be stored in their country. How do I comply with that? I can't. It's impossible. And if China blocks the Western one and the Western one blocks China and whatever, do I want the Chinese government to have my data? Do I want the U.S. government to have my data? Do I want the European government to have the data? They say the data has to be in this country because they want a copy of your data. And if I'm a company, I don't want to give it to them. So that all of these companies, they're not going to be using the cloud in 5 or 10 years. They're going to be storing their data on their own servers internally, and it's going to only go between their servers over their own network. And we're providing that for corporations. We're giving them their own hardware to store. You can have 1,000 computers, 1,000 Raspberry Pis. You can have 1,000 terabytes of storage. You can have a full copy of all your data at every one of your offices. You can have it only goes between your nodes, basically on your own internal network. Everything that enters or leaves the network is completely encrypted. You know, so this is really, and I don't want to get into details, but Walmart was fighting with Amazon, and some of Amazon's vendors think that Walmart banned any vendor working with Amazon because they think that their customer lists were stolen by Amazon off the cloud. So if you have a company and you put your data in this cloud, some of these people are also competitors, and they'll steal your data and then use it against you to steal your customer list or do this or do that or cause you problems and things like that. So so a lot of these companies, governments, military, corporations, and individuals concerned about their privacy, social activists that are doing things, protesters and things like, and people get their head cut off in Iran for protesting the government. Do you really want, you know, and they just go on Amazon, and if the Iranian government gives a court order to Amazon and says hand over the data on the server, or we're going to shut off all the Amazon servers in Iran, do you think they're going to hand that data over, and that person's going to be pulled over by the police and they're going to be executed and have their head chopped off? And this is really what is the company supposed to do? Like, what is Amazon going to fight every government, fight the German government, fight the French government, fight the Iranian government, fight the Syrian government? It puts these companies in a position that they can't win. So the solution to this is we're going to re-decentralize the data. We're going to put it on our own servers and take the data away from these companies. And increasingly, they don't want the legal liability either. What's happening with Twitter now is the government in Germany comes in and they tell them, you're going to censor this because we say it's hate speech. And they're telling them to censor election campaigns for people in the United States. And Twitter says, oh, well, censor it in Germany. And they say, no, our court order says you have to censor it globally. So what do you do if a German court comes in and tells you to censor an American political candidate because they say it's hate speech? And then then they get sued in America because they say you're violating our rights and this is illegal interference with election and this is violating campaign finance rules in Florida. And they're getting sued in Florida and they're getting sued at the federal level because they're complying with a court order in Germany, and they're going to get fined like $100 million if they don't. It's like, what? Like, so this is, I saw in Silicon Valley what was going, and I can't really talk about a lot of the stuff that was going on, but it's a mafia shakedown racket. If you knew what the internal politics and the government and the NSA and the national security state and the corporations, governments, courts, politicians, if you saw the war zone, if there's a line outside Zuckerberg's office of 40 people of like, censor, I don't like this guy, you have to shut him down, or this is hate speech, or anyone running against us in election is a Russian, but it's like the other political party is Russians. You gotta, and the other like what? Like if you're like, they're literally saying that any advertisement by a Republican was a Russian bot. Anyone supporting a Republican was a Russian bot, and then they come in with some guy, and what do you do if you're a company in that situation, right? Because you're going to get screwed either way. You're either going to support that guy, and they're going to complain that you're supporting him, or you support him, and they complain that and you can imagine the lawsuits. Like these companies they're worrying that they're going to get like $10 billion of lawsuits, or that you don't even know and then there's like blackmail, and like some guy sets up like a NGO and flooding pressure groups. It's crazy. The social media, wild. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So the solution is we take back our data, we get our data away from Amazon, Google, Facebook, Twitter, we put it on blockchain, we build a new internet, we re-decentralize these applications that are blogging or tweeting or video sharing, and that's it. It's done. And now the internet's back to where it was before. Everyone has freedom. No one can be censored. If they want to shut you down, they have to sue you or get a court order, or whatever. They at an individual level, instead of having one or two companies that everyone can gang up on and threaten.
Yeah. All right, cool. So I mean, that was a pretty in-depth answer. So let's move on to the next question. Let me just pull this up here.
That's the thing that makes me so angry. I really wanted to stay out of that because it's it really is a political shit show.
Yeah.
But I don't have a choice. At this point, it's gotten so bad that I think the human civilization is not going to survive on the earth unless we fix we fix the media, unless we fix these problems.
Okay, all right. So next question. Some people feel like Skycoin is so undervalued. All it needs is some real marketing behind it to turn holders into millionaires. What do you say to those people?
I think that just if we did nothing, right, and we just rode the bubble, I think that, in my personal opinion, I'm not giving financial advice. I don't want SEC to come after me, but my personal opinion is that when the bubble comes back, we're gonna pass the all-time high. So we were at $50 all-time high before, and if we do not pass that all-time high again, if we don't go from 60 cents to $50 in the next bubble when everything is going crazy, we have done something wrong. I think also, based on the last bubble, we were talking to there's like Swiss investors and people in Zurich, a lot of very old, very wealthy European people. They own like trucking companies and shipping companies and flour mills and aluminum smelting operations and the like cobalt mines and things like that. These are really in the dirt investors. They're not up there in the financial markets, right? They're buying gold, they're buying silver, they're buying mines, they're buying shipping companies, right? And these guys, they're saying we want to get into crypto. And there was this group, and there's a big group, some $1 trillion investment fund, and they have a trading group that does their markets and buying and selling for them. Then they created a subsidiary to do crypto, to get in the crypto market. And they were looking at all the crypto and they were saying, there's nothing here. And they said, we want commodity-backed crypto. We want something tangible. We want to know what the price to this thing is going to be linked to. Like for gold, they can say, here's the production, here's the consumption. India imported this much gold. The Chinese government bought this much gold. The Chinese people bought this much gold jewelry. They bought this much gold for investment. They know what the supply is and the demand. And they know that they can, and so they can sit down and with a calculator calculate what the price should be, right?
Mm-hmm.
They can't do that for crypto. So they said, we want commodity-backed crypto. And so we were talking to them, and our crypto was backed by bandwidth. So they really like this. It's like, oh, networking services. They say that's tangible. We can measure how many users you have. We can measure what your growth rate is. And the idea is, if we're growing at 10% a month, if we're expanding our number of nodes and number of users on the network consuming resources, then economic activity is increasing 10% per month. So their price benchmark should be increasing 10% per month, right? So this idea is, once we have a tangible economic usage, they can then compute what the fair price should be, and they can arbitrage it, and there's a guidance range. But right now they don't have any of the core metrics they need to say that the crypto is backed by anything, and this was the problem across the whole market. So once we get into that space, once we're operating as a network service provider, and all of this stuff is in place and people are using it and it's growing, we get listed on there. That opens the gate for institutional investors, and family office says we want to put 0.4% of our money into crypto. They go to this investment advisor. They say, here's what we have, and here's what we're tracking. And they say, we don't trust any of these because we don't have any data showing why it's going to go up. But this one's, and they have 2 or 3 of them that are commodity backed, and they'll say, well, the amount of economic activity or adoption is growing at this percent, so we assume that the growth rate is going to be 30% per year. And they say, 30% per year, 30% is good, because they're looking for anything over 4%. Remember, they're getting 0% interest loans. They borrow money here and invest it over here at 12%. They borrow here at 2%, invest here at 12%. So if there's anything tangible that can generate a positive return that's above 8%, they're really happy. And that's going to be and that opens up this ridiculous floodgate to basically trillions of, the way that it's structured right now, crypto is not designed to take the type of money that is being invested in the bonds and real estate and stock market, where in the real estate market, a company will come in and they will buy, like the TARP bailout, and they'll buy 25,000 houses to rent them out, renovate them, buy them, hold them, sell them. And if you really, the scale of the crypto market is, for financial markets, is very small. We're dealing with $200 billion. BlackRock is managing $15 trillion, $16 trillion. The pension fund for like Los Angeles firefighters and some Texas firefighters. The company managing the fund for that is like $1 trillion, or what is another company is like 800 billion. So just one little pension fund management company can be 3 or 4 times the total market cap of the whole crypto market. So in terms of the global financial markets, in terms of the amount of money, people don't even understand how big they are, and they don't understand how small crypto is. So one of the things that I built Skycoin for was to meet the requirements for that market. That's why I focused on sort of core economic activity and corporations and monetizable economic activity and things that we can charge that can generate service fees and things like that. Instead of charging for the blockchain, we say give it for free, no fees, no gas, and we get users by producing social media apps here. But these users aren't going to pay anything, and they're not even going to buy Skycoin. But it promotes the Skycoin brand, and it improves the world, and it's just something that needs to be done. And then over here we have like an NGO stuff, like going to Africa and doing rural broadband projects and wiring up schools with like low cost mesh networking equipment for the developing world, and working with the NGO SDG goals, because it looks good. We don't make money on that, but it gets us in there, lets us talk to governments, and this brings in, we do this project with a school, and then they say, oh, but we also want every police station in the country to have this thing, or can you put this on our boats? And like, yeah, we can do that. And it brings in other contracts, right? So you have the, and then you have the corporate side, which is like a company that's running 10,000 locations, and they just want their own virtual network, and they're going to be upgrading, and they want to get rid of Cisco MPLS. And we say, here, it's free, it's cheaper, it's faster, it's open source, and they're going to do it, and they can use it. So because in China, like Cisco hardware is being banned. So if you're a corporation and you have a network, and you can't use Cisco MPLS if you have an office in China, because they're going to ban it. So everyone has to go to open standards, right? Because of regulatory requirements, government requirements, new laws that are being passed. So on one hand, we have the social media apps to get a lot of users. We have the NGO stuff just to look good and sort of do business development. We have the corporate stuff, which is probably where most of the money is going to come from. And then we have consumer, which is like VPN and things like where people are using it for like gaming VPNs, or just using it as a VPN app. And then we have also other companies building blockchain applications like MDL.life, building like a sort of a talent search, talent hub, like type thing. So there's different segments, and what I didn't like about crypto is each company only is doing like one little segment. Mm-hmm. And I think that in the market that we're in now, it's really too early to say that this is going to be the big use of crypto and this is what the killer application of crypto is. I think that crypto is still a problem. It's still a solution searching for a problem. We have the solution, but we don't know what the problem that it solves is. It's like when the laser was invented. We have this new thing, but we don't know what it does yet. Yeah. So this is we don't know where crypto, where blockchain, and where these technologies are going to be adopted in society. So what you want to build is a core infrastructure that can support a lot of different experimentation, and then you want to see what actually works in the real world.
Well said, for sure. Okay, let's check in with our audience and see how we're doing. If you're just joining us, be sure to like, subscribe, and tune in. We have Synth from Skycoin coming through here to answer your questions. And once again, we're taking questions via Menti. Go to menti.com, menti.com. Use the code 3721113. That's 3721113. Okay, let me see if I can pull some other questions here.
I'm in the I'm looking at the chat one too.
Looking at the chat?
The guy has okay. Trump 2020, woohoo.
Okay, so here, actually,
that must be a Russian bot.
Russian bot. Let me check here. Somebody's saying they just bought some Skycoin. Okay, definitely not financial advice. Do your own research. Okay, somebody's talking about the hardware wallets. Skycoin's ecosystem is the only one with software, hardware, and compatible blockchain programming language. All built from scratch. No fork of a fork here. Okay, a very interesting comment.
we built our own software, so 90% of the blockchain projects don't have any software developers and don't have a blockchain, and that's really sad, but it's true. But honestly, if I had to go back 10 years ago, we should have just done marketing and raised like $100 billion and then done the software. We should have done the software because it's really expensive. It takes a long time. It takes a lot of patience, and and really the return is on marketing, right? You just launch a coin and you market and you raise this money, then you can do whatever you want with the money. But we started in the opposite, which is we decided to build the thing, and then after it's built, we did marketing, and that's really the wrong way to go for. And I don't like saying that, but I shouldn't say that, but it's true. It's true.
Yeah,
it is,
it's
and
true.
it is what it is.
Marketing saves lots of things. Okay, all right. So let me find a question here. All right, so here we have a question. If your version of torrent can distribute files and the file can stay in sync as the original gets updated, that's great. But what's your opinion about copyright issues?
Okay. So a copyright, everyone can go on Pirate Bay right now, and Pirate Bay is taken down. There's Pirate Proxy. There's 150,000 websites, and basically you can download whatever you want. What do you mean copyrights? It's the freaking internet. Like, but for most people, they do to go to YouTube. They do. But if you want to pirate it, you can. Who's gonna stop you? Like, the reason that we had this copyright bullshit was we had this company, the RAA, and a bunch of like mafia lawyers who bought up all the music copyrights, and they wanted to make money on it. And then Apple came in, they did iTunes, screwed them, and took over the whole music market. And then Spotify came in, and so you go to YouTube and you play any music video you want. Are they charging you money? Are you saying, oh, you can't listen to Beyonce because copyright? Like, no. So everything on the internet is free mostly.
Well. I would say YouTube does have license agreements with all the major labels, right? So they do monetize the plays and they get paid back that way.
So, but they're not really going after it like they were. Remember, like in the internet,
like Napster,
10 years, yeah, Napster and Kazaa. Maybe what was that? 20 years ago? Am I that old? I remember that. I feel like a grandpa. But so the copyright issue. What do you do with copyrights? Well, you choose who you subscribe to. So if you're downloading content, you can replicate a copy of it, but you choose the people that you subscribe to, basically. So you're choosing the files that you're subscribing to. So it's not like you're gonna get like child porn on your computer unless you're subscribing to someone who's hosting child porn, right? Mm-hmm. So if it's just some guy hosting music or this or that, because you're replicating a copy of what that person publishes. So I think that's the best model. And then if they want to enforce copyright, they have to go against the host, and that means they have to A, figure out who the person is, B, figure out what country they're in, C, find a lawyer in that country, and D, sue them, and then they have to enforce it. So no one's going to do that. But what they might do is they might request that XYZ stops access to some server, some public key, right? And I don't know who they're going to serve that notice to, because it is decentralized. They can serve it to us, and we might have to remove it from the website so it doesn't show up on a public list, but it's still going to be there. And the next day, that person could just change their public key to another public key. Then what are they like? And then it's there again, and then they have to do another notice. So it's like, I really don't. I'm not concerned about copyright as much as I'm concerned about people being lynch mobbed for their political opinions and people getting their head cut off in Iran because they disagree with the government. That's what I'm most concerned about. I really don't care about this.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair point of view. Okay, all right, let's go to the next question here. Okay, let me... Okay, this is more of a marketing question we kind of talked about. Okay, we kind of already answered the copyright question. Let me see if there are any other questions here. Okay, here's one. With that being said, what are the largest obstacles for Skycoin from technical and business development perspectives?
Managing software developers is like herding cats. That's
Yeah.
and everything takes 6 times longer than you want it to.
Yeah, that is true. That is true for sure.
I think that the biggest obstacle, like we want to do mesh networks, and that means producing hardware, shipping it, getting 100 people in some city to start setting up a network. And we thought this would be really easy. We had 100 people fighting each other to basically get antennas and go up on the roof and set up this New York mesh net. And then we actually did it. People didn't want to climb up on the roof. They have jobs. They're busy. They got locked in the house because of coronavirus. They said, yeah. But then as soon as they realized how much work it was to get it set up, they just disappear. They're like, yeah, send me free stuff. Send me free stuff. We set in the antennas. And then only 2 people ended up doing it. So we realized we have to improve usability. We have to make it so you just set it up and it just works. They don't have to use Linux. That people can do 1 or 2 steps, but not 20 steps. And so there's a lot of things that you learn. And everyone says, yeah, we want the mesh net. Yeah, but really very few people actually, if you have to get off your ass and do something and build up a community group, it's a grassroots movement or it's a social movement. And you have to build a social movement. You have to tell people have to understand why they're doing this. And it's not about, they'll make some money, but it's not about money. It's mostly ideological. Like, people did not get into Bitcoin because they said, we want to make a lot of money. They got into Bitcoin because they said, screw the Fed, screw these bailouts, look at Cyprus, they're going to do that to us here. Screw the 2008 TARP bailout. Screw these banks. Screw the government. They were angry. People were angry. They were pulling their money out of the banks, putting in the community banks, putting in the Bitcoin, putting into the gold. They did not do this to make a quick buck, right? Mm-hmm. It's not like so. A lot of the things aren't about money. They're about people's values. So you really have to build a core group that's prepared to suffer to change the world, basically. And then as soon as it starts working, the bandwagon and all these other people sort of roll in, and they all rush in to make money and jump on the movement. But so it's just how it is. So we have to set up community groups in each city, make sure they have the equipment they need, plan out the network, build it out, build up momentum, build up local media relationships, build up connections with local community groups that could help push this forward. And they have to understand why they're doing this. So it's more like an NGO or a nonprofit or a public interest thing. So this is really a question about organizing people. It's not only just about the technology and getting the software working and the hardware. That's really hard, but we're engineers. We can handle that. We get a problem, we solve it. But the social problem and the human element, I think that's the most important thing, and that's the hardest part for us. It's not just our marketing. It's not just like moon, Lambo, moon, hodl, Lambo, moon. That's what people.
Yeah.
Like, we're really building the decentralizing the internet. Like, you want your telecom infrastructure owned by some mega corp monopoly that's spying on you and then exploiting you, or do you want a free internet? So this is it's more about freedom than it. And then of course you can make money owning the hardware, get coins and this and that, things like that. But the core message here is a community interest message. It's about, if we don't do this, humanity is not going to survive on the earth. It's going to get screwed up. I'm seeing what's happening, and I can't even talk about this because I think they delete the video. I get in trouble, but it's bad. What's happening right now with the politics and happening in Google and Facebook and the government, it is apocalyptic. People are like, they see this stuff happening, like that O'Keel guy or this or that, this leaking this video or interviewing this employee and whatever, and they saw the Snowden leaks with the NSA and and how much surveillance the government was doing on people. It's 100 times worse actually than what's anything that people would even believe right now. And not only like what they're doing with this data, why they collected the data in the first place, who has it, what's being used for it, and what will it be used for in the future. It's basically you're going to wake up one day in your country and their government's going to fine you $200 because you went outside your house. They're tracking you by your cell phone, and we quarantine you, and you're violating your curfew. And a lot of people right now, they feel like they're living in a Nazi totalitarian state. Like you look at Australia, and you look at like 4 people died, and then police beating people on the street for not wearing masks. Like you see, it's just like these people, as soon as there was a crisis, they went into Nazi mode. And now imagine these governments with this NSA data and this mass surveillance data, and some of these Western countries, they're going totalitarian. They're becoming Nazi states. And it's and I don't like to say that, but it's going to be it's depressing. But basically, we need to take control of the internet infrastructure. We need to take it back from these companies, from the governments, and we need to have a free media where people can have a discussion that's not basically astroturfed by the corporations and special interests and by governments. And it's just and we don't have that. It's like, here is the opinion that you're going to believe, and if you don't believe that, you're a Russian bot, or it's fake news, or your opinion doesn't agree with our fact checkers, so your opinion is wrong. So they're putting in thought control. They're telling people what they can and cannot believe. They say 2 + 2 is 5, and if you say anything else, it's fake. It's disinformation. It says your opinion is wrong. The government will tell you your opinion, and then it's just like, it's the stuff that people who fled the Soviet Union and came to America for freedom are trying to get Ukrainian passports and go back. That's how bad it is. I talked to some guy who does passport. It's like telling me, they're the Jews in America are getting passports who fled the Soviet Union are trying to get passports for Ukraine in case they have to flee the United States. That's how bad it is right now.
I mean, hopefully it's not going to get that bad. Okay, all right. So Frey is saying, hold on, sorry. Lucky is saying, you're preaching to the choir. well, I mean, we're all pro crypto, right? And I think all of us, if we're in crypto, we all kind of want to take back control, right? To kind of be our own sovereign people. Okay, all right. Let's find some of the questions here. Could you provide my
moon coin? moon Lambo moon, yeah.
Okay, so somebody's saying, okay, so this question is about competitors. So is NOIA a direct competitor? Okay.
No, so basically we've had about 10 competitors and they've all failed, and then new ones came up. I think there's like Helios and there's another one. One of the competitors was funded by, I'm never supposed to say anything negative. Just shut my mouth. But who are those guys that Butterfly Labs? So Butterfly Labs, the guys who made this miner and then took like 8 years to ship the miner, and then they took like hundreds of millions of dollars from all these people and then never shipped the miner. And there's all these people like, it's gonna come next month. My miner's gonna come. And then by the time they got the miner, it was like worthless. They did a project like this, and then it went, and they left Butterfly Labs and they did a mesh network and it went broke. The reality is, mesh networking is something that the military started developing this in the 1980s. There's a book called Darwin Among the Machines, and this is one of the, if you like computing history, this is probably the best book ever. It was about the military, how the industrial complex, and how everything that we have, from cell phones to Wi-Fi to computers, and flat screens. This was all funded $1 billion a year by the military for decades before it worked. It did not work for decades until it's really, this book is really, really amazing. So they started this mesh networking stuff in the 1980s, and it's been 40 years and it still doesn't work. So I'm not going to say that we solved the mesh networking problem, but what we did solve is a subset of the problem where it works for a specific application and a specific type of network where we can start using it and put it on our house and put it on a roof and do wireless internet service providers and VPN. And I'm really happy about that. But the problem of the general mesh networking, which is everyone has their phone and everything connects to everything else with no routers and switches or cell phone towers, and everything's completely decentralized, and you're you're reconnecting to people as you're moving around, and what's called mobile ad hoc networking, that is still an open research problem. And there are about 10,000 PhDs working 24/7 on this for decades, and they have not found a solution, and they haven't made any progress in 20 years. And their newer solutions are worse than what we had in the 80s. So I can tell you, as from a technology perspective, we went through a 10-year development history, and as far as what I understand, the way I see technology development is it's path dependent. It's not only where you are, like here, it's how you got there, what skills you developed, what technologies, there's 100 ways to do something, but but you develop this way. So if you're a ceramics company and you try to build an engine, you can build this engine, a car engine, but you can't. But if you're a company making something with steel or machine tools, getting a block of steel and drilling out an engine, you can do this, right? So you might have this technology for ceramic diesel truck engines, and it's 200% more efficient than the competitors, and they last 10 years longer, and they're more powerful and they're better, right? But it turns out, and the technology and the physics work, but it turns out the manufacturing tool chain isn't there, so you can't build this thing. And even if the technology is there, you still can't build it because you have to go through this learning process of it's not the destination, it's actually the path. It's the expertise and the people and the equipment and process and suppliers and things that you've built up along that path. So for instance, in Skycoin, we have to have hardware, we have to have software, we have to have software developers, we have to have our own programming language, we have to have our own networking stack, we have to have a token, we have to have it listed on the largest exchanges, which we do. We have to have enough marketing to push it out to the public. We have to have community groups locally. We have to organize the community groups. We have to get them to install hardware. We have to have experience doing business sales, and business is completely different than consumer in terms of when a customer comes to you, how do you assess what it is that they actually need versus what they say, and then how do you make sure it gets done? And that skill for business process development it's like an occult art. It's a completely, someone who could do well in a business development setting with software development is a completely separate mentality than consumer. Like if you're building something like Twitter, right? And someone who succeeds in consumer internet, they go into business, they crash and burn. And someone who does business cannot even do something like a Twitter app. They look at it like, where's the revenue? Where's the customer? Where's the blah, blah, blah? It's a completely different world that they're living in. And then also, so I think that's a lot. I don't see competitors because there's really no one that's doing what we're doing and doing the range that we're doing. And also, if they were going to do what we're doing, it would take them 10 years. So if you look at this, you have a company like Google. Why can't Google go in and build an operating system or take on Microsoft or do this? And the reality is that even if you're a big company and you have 15,000 employees, your processes are designed to do it this way, like this, and your HR and your employees and your culture and your development process and your internal tools. And Google tried to launch consumer products and they can't. They did a Facebook killer. They cannot do consumer products. They tried to launch their own operating system. They tried to launch their own cell phone thing. It failed. Because they're designed to do infrastructure like backend, like Android, Google search engines, massive numbers of servers, Gmail storing billions of gigabytes of data for companies on the backend. They're set up to do this. And then if your company is set up to do this and you try to do that, it doesn't work. And it doesn't matter how much money you have or how many people you have or resources. It doesn't work. And that's why these companies are stuck in this area. So you would think that this company with this much money and this many people that they could go and do a consumer app. You say, oh, we'll just pay a designer. We'll just buy that guy from Facebook. We'll just do it this. And they do it and it never works. So you have to sort of think about that. Whereas even if you have unlimited resources, unlimited money, and unlimited people, which most don't have, if you decided to do this, you're going to fail 90% of the time. And so when I look at competitors, there's no competitors. There's no. It's like some people are, and the thing too is our competitors are apps. So there's a competitor, but they're just an app on our platform. Our platform is 30 separate things, and they're just an app on our platform. It's like saying it's like Facebook has 100,000 apps on its platform. You have Farmville. Is Farmville a competitor to Facebook? Are people worried about Farmville killing Facebook? It's like, no, Facebook's a platform. That's just an app on the platform.
So quick question. So one other blockchain company I've seen that also kind of has like a physical device is the hollow ports. Have you seen those devices?
Yeah.
Right. So how does that compare with what you guys have?
Holochain is very similar in terms of what they're doing on the back end, which is their idea is people are going to have these boxes and they're going to host their blockchain data, and people are going to get paid coins for that. And I think that needs to be done, and Skycoin does it, Holochain does it. I would actually prefer if someone else did this, the social media part, because I feel like I'm going to get executed by the media. I saw what happened to Gab and these other people. I'm going to be martyred like Jesus. I'm going to be crucified for doing this, but it has to be done. And I would prefer if someone else does it. So I've actually been looking at other software groups and even trying to just hire another company who wants to be on the firing line to get lined up to be shot by doing these. Like, we'll provide the software, we'll provide the blockchain, we'll provide the programming. You do that, not us. Okay? I don't want to touch that because I don't want to be executed on the fire. You know, I don't want to be lined up and shot like some guy in the gulag, right? So but we haven't been able. There's a lot of people trying to do this. It's not just Holochain. There's also this guy Ben Swan or something. I think it got purged. I don't know why it got purged. He got purged. Then he's trying to create a new media network, and they're trying to do blockchain and blockchain video and just in the last month, there's 20 companies trying to build new YouTubes. 20 YouTube competitors launched in the last month. There's that Boston Real guy has one, and he's bringing in Nobel Prize winners and bringing in scientists that are getting and doctors that are getting purged from YouTube that want to talk without being shut down. And this guy saw this opportunity where all these very interesting people were just being gagged and shut up and censored. And he says, I'm going to create a platform for them. I love their content. And he went out there and he built a whole platform in like a month and launched it. And there was another one, and like BitTube and BitChute and Eogoro, and I can't even remember all of these new companies popping up. So this is happening now. And Holochain is not the most developed project in the space. And in fact, most of the projects don't even need blockchain. They're just decentralized video hosting, or they're just alternative video hosting platforms. And even Spotify is getting in there. Spotify is saying, oh, YouTube's banning those people. Bring them over here. And you saw Joe Rogan left YouTube for Spotify. Then YouTube's banning all these people. And Spotify says, oh, he banned you. Come over here. Because YouTube banned crypto channels with 500,000, 200,000 subscribers, millions of views, because they were under pressure. And so these people are getting their channel shut down. Where are they going to go? Spotify says, come over here. They're secretly building a video platform, and they want to kill YouTube. So they say, come over here. We won't censor you. YouTube demonetize you. Come over here. Right? So we're seeing it's a war. We're seeing there's a war going on right now. And I don't know who's going to win that war. I don't know. Most of the competitors are not in blockchain. And the blockchain companies are not as fast, as agile, as well funded. What we're seeing is we have people with a lot of money that basically made $100 million doing government, military, contracting, hunting down, doing some social media tracking app to track terrorists or some shit, right? So this guy is sitting on a giant pile of cash. He has all these elite software developers, $150,000 a year, $500,000 a year, hackers, elite people, came from a military background. He sees YouTube. He's a businessman. He wants to make money. He sees YouTube deleting these people, the purging them, and he says, "Oh, they're blocking these people. I'm going to make a platform and bring them over here so I can make money." And he's like, ha, ha, ha. And he brings these elite like cyber hacker, and they're blah 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 blah, and they're like launch this YouTube alternative in 1 week. like bam, right? And this guy, he doesn't care about money, and he goes to some billionaire and here's 10 million, 20 million, 20 million. He brings in these people, he brings in this marketing firm, he brings in all the best, like some of these videos, I can't even say the name of these videos because this video would be deleted because they don't like it's censored, but he brought in these directors and the production values and the lighting, and normally a lot of the stuff you see what is low quality, like low budget, like Alex Jones and this and that, they didn't, but you see this guy's video production quality, it's lighting is perfect, the audio is perfect, he has a full audio crew cleaning up the audio, he has 4K video, he has the lighting is brilliant, the background music is brilliant, the production values are like Hollywood level, and he brings in this production crew and this director and this blah blah blah, and it's just it's brilliant. So right now we have people who are coming into this market with these resources to make money. He's not doing this because he loves humanity and he wants to save the world. He thinks that this is a quick way to make money, and he's going to build a .com company and flip it. I'm sure, and he's going to save the world too, and he's saving the world, right? But and so when I see people like that coming in, I take those people more seriously than I see like Holochain, which is a bunch of hippies that don't wear socks. Pictures of them walking around without socks, and you see like their toes, and it's just like freaking
shots fired. All right, very interesting perspective. Okay, all right, so let's check in with our audience and see how we're doing here.
Oh,
with the
block stacks. So I think I can't remember. I met the block stack developer. I like them, and I like their programming language and platform, and I think they did some stuff right. I don't know about the token though. What I saw in the last bubble was a lot of projects like Arc that had really good technicals. We got all the developer-led tokens got hammered, destroyed. They didn't do as well as the marketing-led tokens. If you're a software developer and you want to build good software and build a platform and build this stuff, it's hard and unrewarding. If you want to just launch a token and market and raise $100 million, it's like that. That's what crypto, moon, Lambo, moon. But the market just moves way too fast for something that's going to take a year to push out. It's just the crypto market is here one day, gone the next. It's boom and bust. So if you're a company and you're trying to develop something long term for the next 10 years, it's really, 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 really difficult.
Okay, good point. All right, so let's check in here and see what else other people are saying. Okay, Skycoin is one of the only dozens of technologies being developed by the organization across all fields of computer science over the last 9 years. Okay, hey, what's up, Elia? Welcome.
I'm also in the chat in YouTube. They should also do chats on the YouTube.
Yeah, okay. Any questions in the chat you want to answer?
I'm trying to get it up.
Yeah, I think the mainly comments. Yeah, I think the mainly comments here. Okay, so let's go to Menti. So we covered that question. Let me see what other questions we want to cover.
Synth rocks. I'm so tired right now. It's like woke up at like 5 a.m.
Yeah, me too. I'm pretty exhausted. Okay.
Yes, so I think that this is going to be the biggest crypto bubble in human history. Remember 2008? Everyone was trying to figure out where to put their money. Do I put it in real estate? Real estate's falling. Do I put it in stocks? Do I put it in bonds? Everything is going to be going down except crypto, gold, silver, commodities, food. And this is going to be a commodity bubble. The price of meat's going to go up 100%. The price of food's going to go up. When the price of food goes up, there's going to be riots. That's what it is.
Where they have riots right now. At least here, right in the States. But global riots, yeah, for sure. I think it's going to be pretty crazy if that ends up happening, because the way things are going. Yeah, because riots, when people can't get food and the economy is shot, people begin causing a mess.
So they a lot of this lockdown, I think, too, is not only the virus, but if you look at the French government, they did a fuel tax, like 25-cent fuel tax, and their tax was already very high, and it just people are not doing as well economically for the last 3 years. China has been actually in a depression for the last 3 years, and so has the world. And the government just printed up more and more money, but it's come to the point where they were printing up $8 of new debt for every dollar increase in GDP. Now it doesn't matter how much money they print, it's not going up. They can print $1 trillion and it doesn't do anything. It's just stagnant. And then it just creates more debt. So they can't keep adding more debt on top of debt like they did for the last 40 years. So anyway, in France, they raised the tax and people were getting poorer and poorer. And the government is getting broke, so they raised the tax a little bit. And these Yellow Jacket protests broke out all across France. There were riots, people blocking highways, and the government censored this. They didn't want people to know that millions of people are rioting in the country. So we're going into this period where the governments have been preparing for this civil unrest and riots and destabilization of the international monetary system for 10 years now. The governments predicted this as a scenario decades ago and have been buying riot equipment, stockpiling food, trying to figure out, making emergency plans for this to emergency, a lot of stuff in the background, which if you're looking in the media, they just want, it's calm, everything's fine, real estate's fine, it's going to recover tomorrow. That's what they tell people because they really don't want to start a panic, right? Because once a panic starts, it becomes self-sustaining. Once you go into a store and some guy buys all the candy bars, everyone else says, wait, there's no more candy bars. There's not going to be more food. And then you go to the next store and buy up all the candy bars. And it's a self-reinforcing thing where people will go in a store and one guy will buy up all the toilet paper and it makes everyone else think there's a toilet paper shortage. And then people are going out buying thousands of dollars of toilet paper, stocking it up in their homes, right? But there's no toilet paper shortage. Yeah. And then some guy ends up with 5 years worth of toilet paper stocked up in his living room. It's just like, because this is the mentality that you're dealing with. And if you tell people on the media that 1 million people are rioting, 10 million people are riot. And if you tell people 10 million people are rioting, you'll have riots in 80 cities instead of 2. So they try to keep it very quiet what's going on because they don't want people panicking. But we're entering a systemic crisis, and when bonds are going down and stocks are going down and real estate is going down, these people who have trillions of dollars of assets are going to be going into crypto. So the people who own crypto today are going to be like the people in Weimar Germany who own gold when the hyperinflation started. And I don't think we're going to have hyperinflation. It's going to be very controlled, but we are going to have a flight of capital and a loss of confidence. And so what I want to do for Skycoin, the only thing we have to do is build out the network, show that we're building something real and that there's hardware in the roof and that people are using it. And everything else takes care of itself, because when this crisis starts, people are going to be looking for stability. They're going to be looking for things that are backed by something and have some type of activity and have guaranteed liquidity and some safe place to put money, or some place that they can earn a decent return, or that they can preserve their spending power. And that's really, so for us, I think what we have to do is just keep working, build out the platform, and our goals are really, really modest. Like I think that the market is more driven. It matters, of course, what we're doing and how well we're performing. But I've also experienced that when the market's going up, it's going up, and it doesn't matter what you do. It just does it by itself. And when it's going down, it's going down. And sometimes I feel like you're swimming against the tide. All the money's leaving the market. Your price goes down no matter how much marketing you did. Even if you did release 100 products that month, maybe you only went down 5% and everyone went down 20%, but you still went down 5%, right? So this idea is the money always goes to where it has a positive return. If a market's going down 5 or 10%, everyone at the same time pulls their money out of that market. If the market's going up, everyone's pushing all the money they have into that market. So houses are going up, everyone's piling in. It goes down, everyone's selling at the same time. And this is the psychology of the herd dynamic of financial markets. And this is why people always buy at the top and sell at the bottom. They always buy while it's going up. And then when the market starts falling, everyone's selling and no one can, so this is not good from an investment standpoint. I think it's best to buy in the crisis I think the best time to buy crypto was the last 2 years at the bottom, and then as it's going up
Yeah,
to this new
absolutely.
peak, that's when you want to get out.
Yeah,
But
take
no
profits.
one did that.
Yeah, buy low,
No
sell
one
high.
did that.
Yeah, and that's why we have Token Metrics to help you do that. Okay, all right. So, wow, this has probably been one of the longest live streams we've had so far, but everything's going good so far. Actually, let me just see how we are on time. Yeah, it's
yeah,
been
I need to go to sleep.
an hour and a half. Okay, so typically we have some questions we like to ask all our guests on the show. So it's time to put you in the hot seat. All right. So first question: what action have you taken that has changed your life completely? Actually, I'm sorry. What 3 actions have you taken that have changed your life?
Nothing. Like going into crypto changed my life. That was crazy. I got sick of the politics in the U.S. and I just got on a plane and went to Hong Kong one day. I just got sick of it. I really hate the politics. I think the people are idiots and they're killing each other on the street.
Yeah.
No one's doing anything to improve the country. They're stealing everything they can. It's no one wants to look at the problems. So I just got out of that. I got so fed of it, up of it. I just got on a plane and I went as far away on the other side of the world as I could.
Now,
And
did
that
you
was
have
really a
any
change.
prior experience with Hong Kong, or did you just pick a random
No.
country?
Well, that was as far away from the U.S. politics as I could get, right?
Yeah.
And you don't have to see the CNN, the media, and
Now, so how'd you handle like the whole visa and everything? Like, are you based there now? Like, do you have residency there,
I
or do you
moved
just
to
travel
Shanghai.
around?
I moved to Shanghai like 5 years ago, and that was great actually because China is the center of blockchain. There are no blockchain companies in the U.S. There's like 4 of them. All the blockchain companies are in China. All of the 3 biggest exchanges, OKX, Binance, and Huobi, are in China. And the Chinese government is adopting blockchain as a national strategy for the financial markets. So, and they're not succeeding at that. I'm not going to say that they're doing a good job of it, but they're at least willing to push blockchain in a way that the US government and the European government isn't going to do for 10 years after China does it. So they want to be at the forefront of blockchain adoption for corporations and industry adoption. So if you're raising money in China, the police will shut you down. They will come to your conference and shut you down. But if you're developing technology for industry and adoption, then there's government support. So I think that I moved at the right time, and I think that if you want to do anything in blockchain, that it's in Asia, and if not in China, then in Hong Kong and Singapore, and even in India, you don't see a lot of blockchain adoption, or in the EU, in the UAE, there's a little bit, but not much.
Now,
And in
don't you
Europe-
think that's kind of contradictory, right? Like blockchain, where things are not really controlled by anybody in a country where they want to kind of censor and control everything.
Yeah. Well, they don't. China is very, very interesting in terms of what the government censors. If a train crashes in China and you're blaming the Communist Party, they might censor that. And they might even actually have the media attack not the Communist Party, but attack a government official. And some government official will have to resign and say, oh, it's his fault, and point the finger, and they have to make it look like justice is being served and they're fixing it and whatever. So they mostly censor gossip about government officials sleeping with this actress or this or that. What they censor in
TMZ
China,
tabloids.
yeah, tabloid, and they go and they arrest a bookseller in Hong Kong for writing books gossiping about which government official is sleeping with what actress, which mistress is which, it's some crazy. What they do censor. So I have a Canadian friend in China, and he hates the Communist Party, and he keeps posting all this negative stuff, anti-China, and they don't censor him at all. They don't even they don't even actually even care. But if you say, let's organize and I'm going to put together a riot and protest, then they'll start censoring you. But if you were just bitching, they don't care. So their censorship is different than it isn't what people think it is. And also, people think that the Chinese government's spying on everyone, right? In the United States, the NSA gets the data, and then it goes to a bunch of privates. It's collected by private companies, actually. It's not collected by the government. Those private companies can sell the data to third parties, and they're allowed to make money on the data they made collecting it for the government. And the NSA actually takes the data and they outsource they aggregate the data, then they outsource the analysis to private companies that are not U.S. companies. They're overseas, and they're not under U.S. law. So if you actually worked in the government and you work with these people, the way that they have it set up is there's a company in the Cayman Islands that takes the contract, and the data goes offshore. It's not like it's stored in America, and then they can sell. They're even selling this data to advertising companies. Your ISP is a thing called a DNS server. They track every website you go to through DNS, and they don't care if it's encrypted with HTTPS. They know every website you're going to, and they build up a marketing profile of you. Like, do you go to Alex Jones? Do you go shopping? Do you go to mom blogging sites? What websites are you visiting? And they sell that data to whoever wants to buy it. So this is basically they make money on this, and it is what it is. And I was an insider, so I knew that, and I was involved with some of this stuff. And so when you look at that in the United States, a lot of the things that they're doing in the U.S. are illegal in China. The Chinese government would never let its companies, WeChat, for instance, take that data and put it on an overseas server. That server has to be in China, and if that data was put overseas, that person would be arrested and thrown in prison. But in America, if a private company takes data and they do it, and then it gets sent to an overseas contractor in the UK, and then it gets sent to a Cayman Islands firm, and that the Cayman Island firm sells the data to Axiom or something, it's legal, right? So you don't really know, like, it's really crazy. So, and there's in China too, with the police in China, there's a police station, and they're involved in investigating the government officials, saying who's doing what. The police officer in Shanghai, who works in the department for that area, he is not allowed to leave Shanghai. They take his passport. If he wants to travel overseas, he has to get permission for it, and they won't give him permission. If he travels to another city, he has in China. If he wants to go to Beijing, they make him get permission, and who he talks to, where he is, what hotel he's staying at, who he's talking to. This guy is like tracked at a level, like if you work in the Israeli military and you work at an elite cybersecurity unit for 2 years after when you're working there, and for 2 years after you work in that unit, you cannot travel overseas without telling them. If you meet anyone, you meet someone at a coffee shop, someone messages you on Facebook, you have to report that to your superiors so they can investigate that person and see if they're a security threat. You have to report what they talk to, if anyone asks you any information about your work, whatever, because you have information related to active operations that can cause damage to the government. So that level of scrutiny is applied in China to the government, because what they don't want is they don't want some guy in Beijing going to Shanghai and bribing the police officer to get blackmail material on people in Shanghai, right? In WeChat, the WeChat's run by Alibaba, I think, or Tencent, one of these huge companies that's owned by the government indirectly. If you want to get mass surveillance data on a WeChat user, they have 8 levels of stuff that you have to go through. It's not like some guy in Beijing could just go to the government and get your data file and get your conversations. The courts in China cannot get Tencent to hand over the chat logs. The court in Shanghai, I've had lawsuits. The court does not have the authority or ability to compel Tencent to hand over WeChat data. Only like this group in the government at a national, at like these groups at the national level have so they tried to do a wiretapping law in China with the NSA, and the Public Security Bureau, the police said, we don't want to give our data to Beijing. The local Shanghai police says, we'll handle the data, and if you want the data, you have to come to us and ask us for it.
Mm-hmm.
They tried to set up a national level NSA in China, and the local governments are too worried about being blackmailed. They will not let the national government hand over the surveillance. So what you see in the United States and Britain and UK and Five Eyes, it's going to take 20 or 30 years for the Chinese government to get in place a national level surveillance program and for it to get us out of control in China as it is in the US. So so when you see oppression, so China is really weird. It's like being on the moon.
I've been there.
Anything like
it's crazy. There's so much goes. My first time there, we were just driving around. They had skyscrapers everywhere in places we had never been to, never even heard of. Like Chengdu, I was like, Chengdu is the size of Chicago, right? And it's a place I never even heard of on a map. And I've been to 40 countries, right? And I was like, this is incredible, right? So China is, this is China's century in a way, I think.
I went there, and I went to this town I've never heard of, and there was a Starbucks and a KFC on every corner in the country. It's like they have a Starbucks on every corner of this, and I'm like, what? And there's KFC, and it was like it was just crazy, actually. So they're building skyscrapers everywhere, mag trains, infrastructure, airports, ports. They're consuming more concrete and steel than the whole rest of the world combined. But anyway, the way that their government is structured, they don't have it's really different than a Western government. You can't, so there is some censorship and oppression, but think about this. If you're Chinese government and you control WeChat, you're not going to censor people too much because they'd leave. You want to keep them in there, let them say what they want to say, because they could switch to Telegram. The Chinese government banned crypto, and then everyone just went from WeChat to Telegram. It took 2 days. The whole crypto community, like 10 million people, went from this app to this app. So when people think that the Chinese government has all the control and power and they can do whatever they want, they can't. They have no power at all. They have to look like they're in power and look like they're controlling things, but what they really control is very narrow and specific. But I would say that the U.S. government has 40 times more power in terms of budget and weapons and what they can get away with. Like the Chinese government cannot get away with anything. The second they do anything, they get screamed at in the international media. That's what you. So I think that one of the things that you have to understand is in China, the Chinese government banned Uber.
Mm-hmm.
The Uber drivers in Shanghai went down to the police station and beat the shit out of the police.
Wow.
And the next day,
wow,
they unlifted the Uber ban, and they forced one of the companies in China to buy Uber, so that the drivers wouldn't be out of work.
That was Didi, I think.
Chinese
like Didi or something.
Didi, yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So this is, and the government too. They can tell you should sell your company to this thing, but then you negotiate what the price is. And if you don't like the price, you can say, "Well, we didn't come to an agreement." They can't force. A lot of times, the government recommends that you do something, but they can't force you to do it directly.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really whereas in the United States, like the U.S. government, they can come in, arrest you, put you in solitary confinement. You can look Snowden and look at Assange and the embassy crap. Like imagine if the Chinese tried to do something like what the U.S. did to Assange overseas. Like they don't have that power at the level that and I think that's good. I think that I think that even the U.S. has too much power and they're abusing it. And that imagine if every time they did something that Russia, China, Brazil, everyone complains it's unfair. I think that we need international rules, and I think that they need to be enforced fairly. It can't be just one guy with a stick who says this is how it's going to be and do what I say or I'm going to beat you with my stick, but I can do whatever I want, but you can't do that. And that's really how the world is being run right now, and that's why a lot of these countries are are, and I don't think the U.S. is bad, but I think that they have problems in terms of it's really it's really crazy. I
Yeah.
can't even talk about some of the stuff.
Yeah. All right. Good stuff. Good stuff. Okay. All right. Next question. All right. So next question: who are three people, past or present, in history, who have inspired you?
Everyone. So I take inspiration from. I like Larry Ellison. Was really, I think,
That's
one of
Oracle's
my inspirations.
founder.
Yeah. One of the gods of the earth. He. If you want to learn like how do you be successful in life, you could learn a lot from that guy. I'm not saying he's a good guy or he's moral or whatever.
He was
you want to be successful.
yeah, like he was pretty hardcore, I've heard.
Yeah, hardcore.
Right.
And I there was a guy who inspired me, or who what?
Yeah, inspired you. Three people who have inspired you.
There was this guy called Martin Curvald. He was an Israeli like military historian, and he wrote books. This guy, he's another hardcore badass. Like you can't even, like, if you're politically correct, you read his books and you'll be crying on the ground, because it's just like, this is the way history has been for 100,000 years, and it hasn't changed, and it's always been this way, and it always will be this way. And you find out that people like have privileges, and that they whine about their privileges. They're whining about privileges and saying that privileges are oppression and oppression is privilege, and it's everything that, that basically people's minds are screwed up. So if you need a slap in the face about how the world is, I'd like, and where it's going, like, very unapologetically, he wrote about the decline of the state, and things that people aren't going to be saying publicly for 20 years. That guy, he was saying 20 years ago. And it is what it is. And so he inspired me. That was one of my favorite authors, Martin Curvald. And I think I was inspired by a lot of people. I took a lot of influences from like 100 different people, like in terms of business, the software from Larry Ellison, and in terms of it's just so many people.
So many people.
I don't know who it
All right.
is.
All right, no worries. Okay, then last question. Okay, hold on. Sorry, let me just check something real quick. So we've done actions, we've done books. Wow, I'm drawing a blank on the last question we typically ask. This stream has been going on for so long.
Oh yeah, I need to get breakfast. I'm like, oh, coin hours. Yeah.
Let me just check here how we're doing with it. Okay, somebody says sorry but disagree about China. 99% agree about the US. Okay, that's free cash.
For China, I'm being too positive. Like, I live there, and I have, my opinions are neutral. Like, it's on both sides. There's some good parts and bad parts, but I think you have to say what the alternative is. Like, if people say negative, they think it's like this, but it's actually the other argument I think needs to be heard. There's a lot of bad things I can say, but no one will say anything about China, because they'll get censored, they'll get shut out, they'll get the webs. You don't. So a lot of the criticism is just hushed up. I think that they're a lot more. They're not perfect.
Okay, cool.
But it is a different system, and I think it's misunderstood.
Yeah. So I've got the last question. I think you've kind of answered it throughout this live stream. But what are 3 books you've read that you like?
So this one, this guy, he had The Brief History of the Future by Atali. This is the world. This is like brilliant. He talks about cryptocurrency and how companies are going to issue their own cryptocurrency, and like what's going to happen with the poor and the welfare state, and how people respond to neoliberalism and the markets. And this was a guy, he was an insider. He like worked at the World Bank, and he was the advisor to the to the president of France, and he was one of the people that helped establish the European Union. So this guy Attali, he's one of the big. He has some really good books actually. He has one on music, and things like that. And but his but this talks about the world and where we're going, and it's not this world where everyone thinks we're going to have this democracy and everything's going to become like America. What's happening is America is becoming like Africa or Brazil. We're not going forward to this utopia where everyone's living in peace and singing kumbaya and democracy. We're heading towards totalitarianism, towards fascism, towards people killing each other on the street for the race. Like this hasn't happened in the United States for ever, right? We haven't had lynch, but the media and the forces at work here are dividing people to the point that they're ready to kill each other on the street. So America is becoming a divided country, and it's not becoming a unified country. And the democracy that happens in America isn't actually occurring abroad. What's happening is America is becoming more like these Brazil or Africa. So the West is becoming like Africa. Africa is not becoming like the West. So he talks about these political trends in the 1990, even 30 years ago, and it is really a prophet. And there's another book called Darwin Among the Machines, which is more about our development of our technology and computing, driven by the military and driven by warfare, and where we're going in terms of that. And that book is very interesting. Those are definitely the top three.
All right. Well,
and then
good list.
What is?
You have a few more?
Yeah, there was. I don't. It's just too dark. I don't even want to talk about it.
Yeah. All right.
The direction we're going is very dark. It's more like when you see like mafias and organized crime taking over governments and things like the government's supposed to be policing these people, but instead you see criminal groups running governments. I think in 10 or 20 years, people will say like, yeah, the mafia, like, yeah, the government's run by organized crime, and you see like, mafia accountants and things being put into the White House and things like that, and people are realizing they're losing trust in the Congress, they're losing trust in the media, they're losing trust in the medical system. They see that everything is owned by a small oligarchy. They see everything as just a bunch of special interests trying to exploit them. And they see that there's actually no one working for the public good. People want to believe, like QAnon says, that there's people secretly working in the shadows for you, and they're really trying to fix the problem. And to some extent, that might be true, but the reality is the people who are actually working for the humanity and working for the public good, they have so little power, and the groups they're up against are so powerful. They have so many billions of dollars, so many hundreds of thousands of people, that the martyrs, the people really trying to do what's good for the majority, what's good for the American public, what's good for the people, they're going to be crushed and annihilated. And eventually people are even going to give up on the idea that there's anyone in the government or the Congress or the FDA or the corporations that are doing anything to benefit anyone but themselves. And right now they still have this naive idealism that these people are working for you instead of working for themselves. And that idealism is going to die. And that's going to be very, very sad. But once that idealism dies, then we get together and we say, this is how the world actually is. Now what do we do about it? Instead of believing that Jesus is going to return to earth and save us, or some secret QAnon people in the White House are going to fix our problems, and that are actually secretly working for us, and they're not. They're not. Every single person in the government, in these corporations, in the banks, are trying to screw you. And it's sad, but once you understand that, then you can react and plan your life and protect your family and protect your community and start trying to find solutions. But as long as people believe someone else is going to fix these problems for me, nothing's going to happen. So this is one of the disillusionment that we're facing, as we're being confronted with a very uncomfortable reality. So and it's dark. I don't even like talking about it because it's depressing. But if you look, crypto was a response to this. It was a response to the Federal Reserve. It was a response to the bail-ins, and that's also why this next crisis in banking and next financial crisis and economic crisis is going to be the biggest boom in crypto. It's because when people see these problems, they're going to start looking around for solutions. And one of the solutions is going to be decentralization. And not only decentralization, it's going to be communities creating their own cryptocurrencies. It's going to be communities growing their own food, building their own infrastructure. It's going to be parts of countries breaking off to create their own regions, like Catalonia and Quebec. You're going to see a proliferation of separatist movements. And we're already seeing that in the U.S. with CalExit and these Silicon Valley billionaires wanting to break California off from the United States and create its own country. You know, that we're seeing power being relocalized to the. So what we're seeing is the biggest financial, economic, military, political transition in human history. We're seeing a system that was built up over hundreds of years being torn down, being destroyed. And now we have to look to the replacement. We're not going to go, and people are going back and they're trying to go back to religion, or they're trying to go back to white nationalism, or they're trying to go back to racialism, or go back to Hitler or something. And they think that's going to solve our problem, and that they can go back to some previous system to fix our problems, because they see the current system has problems. They say, let's go back to the previous system. But it's not going to work. We actually have to look forward to what the future system is going to be. And so we have this. It's really just crazy. We're going to go through a dark period. A lot of people are going to suffer, and then we have to create solutions and we have to fix it. And I unfortunately, I was on the leading edge of that. I was always 10 years ahead of all the social trends. Like I was in the Bitcoin when it was at a penny, and I was in things like involved or related to WikiLeaks and things like that. And I was always in these things early, and I always saw these things coming because I would just talk to people, and you could really see what they were saying, what information they had. But if you're just looking at the media, they don't tell you anything. But you talk to people, and you talk to people in the government, and you talk to people in the media, and the things that they can't say publicly. And you go to the meetings, you go to Davos, you just talk to people, and the corporations, they tell you what's happening in the world. And when you have that perspective, it's crisis. And I think we have to start looking beyond crisis and beyond just like, let's get angry and riot and kill each other on the street, because it's not going to solve our problems. And in some way, I think a lot of the public is distracted. They say like they want blacks and whites killing each other on the street. That's what they want, because it distracts you from the fact that, our economic system is broken. Oh, our Congress is corrupt. Oh, our media is corrupt. Oh, none of these political parties have a solution to our problems, right? So they're just like, let's distract them, keep them busy while we continue stealing. So the whole objective of the system is to keep people distracted and busy so they can keep running the way that they have been running without actually fixing any of the problems. And the other thing is, as soon as anyone comes in to fix these problems, they're going to get attacked, killed, assassinated, removed. If you look at Trump, when Trump came in and he tried to change the way that they said hospitals have to publish their price list. The media, they come in with $30 billion, $100 billion trying to take him down because they're going to lose money on this. And so he wants to, the hospital has to publish their price list. Why is it such a big deal? Because now you can say this hospital is 30% cheaper than that one, so you can choose. But they say, no, so you can't publish the price list. So you imagine you go in the hospital and they don't tell you how much they're going to charge you until afterwards. When you go in a restaurant, they give you a menu and they tell you how much you're going to get charged if you order a hamburger. But you go to hospital, you ask for a price list, they won't give it to you. And they're not required. So they say you have to publish the price list. And they say, no, we don't want that. Why would we give them the price list? Right? We like the way the things are. So as soon as you try to change anything, these people are going to lose hundreds of billions of dollars a year off it. They're going to come in and they're going to do everything they can to destroy you. So if you look at Caesar in Rome, he came in, he chased the corrupt Senate out of Rome, and he said, I'm going to fix the problems. And what happened was all the senators and his friends ganged up on him, and they stabbed him. And they say, who killed Caesar? Everyone killed Caesar. There wasn't a single person who didn't stab him in the back. And this is what's happening with Trump. It's what happens with every single person who comes into the system and tries to change it. So this is so what's going to happen is we have to get to the level where the crisis is so bad that we're forced to change or we die. So this is this is what's really psychologically and at the fundamental level, this is what is driving crypto and what's driving the Yellow Jacket protests and driving this and that. And it's really dark. So the problem I've had for the last few years is just looking at society and looking at where we're going, and every year getting worse and worse and worse and worse, and then seeing that no one has a solution. That we know that these problems exist, but we don't have an alternative. People cannot imagine an alternative to the current economic model that we have, or the current way that things are run. It's impossible for them to even imagine that there could be another way of doing things. So I don't even want to recommend some of the, like Martin Curvald, he wrote a book called The Rise and Decline of the State. And he says that mafias and criminal cartels are going to take over governments. And we saw that in Mexico, and we see it happening. But do people really want to believe that their government is run by some mafia drug cartel? Like, do they really want to? No, they want to believe that the government is working for them and that it's doing what's in the interest of the public. But then you look at you just open your eyes and you see, like, in this country, in this country, in this country, and then he says the whole world is going in that direction. It's not only in Mexico, but in the United States and in Europe. And then you say, well, what does that mean? Like, what is that? Does it mean our government is a failure? That our system of governance doesn't work? That it can't? That our political system can't solve these problems we have? And if it can't, what's the alternative? Is it communism? Do you want to live under a dictatorship? And the answer is no. But so I don't know. So it just don't ask me what books to read.
All right. Well, I think we'll end there. I mean, it's definitely been good. Okay. All right. So to wrap up, any last words? Where can people learn more about you, Skycoin?
Oh, just skycoin.com.
Skycoin.com. Okay. All right. No, and the community, is there a forum, Telegram, anything like that?
Yeah, we have over 10 Telegram channels, and on Telegram there are like 15 Telegram channels. I think a couple dozen with over 1,000 people in them. Like, we have one channel for technical support, one channel for Skywire, one channel for application developers on CX. We have a main channel. We have a trading channel to keep the Lambo talk out of the. Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, well, I mean, to our audience, if you like this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Share this in all the 15 channels, and also on YouTube, on Twitter, Periscope, Facebook, everywhere, email. With that being said, Skycoin Synth, it was a pleasure having you. I mean, this is by far the longest live stream we've had as an interview. Also, I would say very, very interesting. Was very, very diverse in terms of the topics we covered.
Oh,
right?
It's 5 a.m. here, so I haven't woken up. I'm like, ooh. Some guys like, is this crypto or politics? And it's like, you're like,
crypto's everything.
Like, why is crypto going up? Because the government's printing $1 trillion, and they say, oh, it's a conspiracy theory, and it's like, it's. I have a copy of FT Today. I pay like $1,000 a year to get this freaking paper flown in from London, and then you look at the back of the paper and say, oh, the government's gonna print up $1 trillion this month. Everything's gonna pump, and you're like, and it's just financial markets, right? It's like it's not, everything's public. This is the problem, is people are stupid. They can't think. It's like why is Bitcoin going up? Why is the stock market at the all-time high when the economy is at a 100-year low? Why is the unemployment rate the highest it's been in 100 years, and the stock market's at a peak? Why isn't the stock market follow the economy? Why does GDP go down 10% and the stock market goes up 30%? Right? It's like, well, up is down, left is right, black is right. Government intervention. Yeah. So I think when I follow the markets, the only thing I care about actually is what the government's doing, because if they're printing up $1 trillion a month, where they put that $1 trillion is going to determine what happens. It doesn't matter what you and your $5 or what you do on Robinhood if the government is printing up $1 trillion a month, right? So I think that's the interest rates, the government factor, and the geopolitical factor is the most important thing to understand. And maybe 20 years ago it wasn't, but today it is. If they so is there, and if you have a financial crisis and you have a banking crisis and they do bailouts, we're going to see Bitcoin over $100,000. If they do bail-ins, Bitcoin will be over $100,000. So if you want to get rich, all you have to do is buy Bitcoin and wait, because this is going to happen. It's inevitable. And last time this happened, Bitcoin went from $1 to $1,000. It's like I've been watching this 10 years. Unless if you don't know that, you're an idiot. It's not even like it's just
Bitcoin to 100,000 and above, right? So as we like to say,
We just landed on the moon in the Lambo.
Moon Lambo.
no.
All right. Well, it was a pleasure having you. With that being said, thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
All right, bye.
Okay.
Token Metrics is a cryptocurrency investment platform that helps
Class
users
war.
leverage
Power to the
machine
people.
learning to become better
the
crypto
rich.
investors. Our in-depth analysis helps eliminate the emotions of investing, find profitable investment opportunities,
I'm a
and
Marxist
filters
now.
out scams. Learn more at tokenmetrics.com. Disclaimer. Token Metrics Media LLC does not provide individually tailored investment advice and does
Pure
not take a
Marxist.
subscriber's or anyone's
Who's
personal
this guy's like
circumstance
this
into
libertarian.
consideration when discussing
It's like
investments.
this white guy in a
Nor is it
tuxedo.
registered
I
as
mean,
an
he doesn't know
investment
anything. He
advisor
doesn't
or
know much about
broker-dealer in any
Africa.
jurisdiction.
Pure
Information
Marxist.
contained herein is not an offer or solicitation to buy, hold, or sell any security. The Token Metrics team has advised and invested in many blockchain
God.
companies. A complete list of their advisory
I like
roles
this.
and
I
current
like
holdings
this.
can be viewed here
I should
at
say something controversial.
tokenmetrics.com/disclosures.